Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Kieran Devlin and today's session is How VOSS Discover Elevates Your Cloud Telephony Journey. I am delighted to be joined by Tim Jalland, Solution Manager at VOSS. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kieran. And hello, my name's Tim Jalland and I'm a Solution Manager at VOSS. I'm responsible for the Microsoft side of our portfolio and business. And for people that don't know VOSS, as a short intro, we're a product company that's been working in the digital workplace, UC and telephony industry for over 20 years. We specialise in lifecycle management solutions that broadly covers onboarding, the day-to-day management, monitoring and analytics of multi-vendor UC solutions. My role at VOSS is working with partners and customers globally, helping design and deploy solutions around Microsoft Teams and Teams Phone. And my background's broadly in UC, telephony and networking. And I'm planning to bring some examples of that work into the session today with you, Kieran.
Perfect. Exactly. Just that's you're doing my job for me with that elegant segue into exactly the kind of case study and examples you're alluding to, Tim. I think there's one in particular that I thought was quite interesting around a large multinational organisation. It has over 100,000 employees located globally across 500 sites, more than 40 countries. This is a massive organisation, and you guys had an excellent project with them. What sort of challenges did they come to you guys with?
It's a good description of the organisation. And what I'm going to talk about today is what we call getting cloud ready for telephony. And what that means is getting into an organisation like this and right-sizing and modernising what is quite a large-scale and existing voice telephony service, whilst we're also connecting to the cloud. That might be Microsoft Teams Phone, Cisco WebEx or Zoom as an example. So the organisation here is quite typical of large organisations we work with. They're moving IT applications up to the cloud as part of a broader transformation programme. But they've still got a really significant investment in that on-premise voice PBX. And in this case, it's a Cisco UC platform. And as you mentioned, they're globally distributed. So this has got 8 clusters to give you a sense of scale and size. And that's located in different geographic data centers, at different places in the globe. And the intention was to move this to the cloud, for the benefits we talk about. So closer integration with the digital workplace, flexibility and agility and the like. And in this case, that discussion was triggered off by a supplier renewal, but it could be a need to upgrade or some M&A activity or some other time-based constraint on the existing service. And the challenge, just come back to your question, is just quite typical in these larger organisations. The existing platform's been in use for several years, and it's closely entangled with business processes and ways of working. And to compound that, it's relatively opaque in terms of the setup and the configuration that's on that PBX service. So the ask here really was to audit and map, it's a service we call Discovery, really to understand what's on that PBX and where we're starting from, and then to optimize that and align that to business needs and requirements and prepare that plan for starting to move that service up to the cloud. And then alongside that, the organisation was looking to conduct what we call a modernization or a right-sizing and clean-up to get that PBX estate cloud ready, as we call it, before we started off that transition or migration. So they were the challenges and they were the asks coming out of this particular organisation.
And I guess you alluded to it there about the asks, the goals of the project. Just if you could quickly expand upon that, what would you say was the customer's ideal outcome from the project?
Well, ultimately, they want to move the existing PBX estate or service, or the bulk of that, up to the cloud, where they benefit from some of the inherent benefits that you get from a cloud service. So that was their ultimate outcome, was to move to Microsoft Teams Phone in this case. But the expectation was, that's quite challenging. It is a really large estate and it's intertwined with how the business works. So the expectation was that they'd be operating what we call a hybrid model with some on-premise capability and the cloud side, and they'd be dual running that for at least a period of time, perhaps 18 months or so. But the outcome they wanted to get to was they wanted to phase this up, and they wanted to get that transition process and start on that and get the bulk of the work moved to the cloud in a relatively quick time period. And what that looked like was the first 3 months of the project. We were really involved in audit and discovery around the existing estate. I'll talk a little about that later. But also they wanted a relatively quick transition. So they were looking at 12 months to move the bulk of the estate up to the cloud, which is quite ambitious given the scale and the size and the complexity. But again, some of the automation software we provide, really supports and assists on that with speed to benefits and getting that done in a non-disruptive way. So in terms of outcomes, I think broadly trying to get the bulk of this moved up to Teamsforce, but doing that in a non-disruptive way and relatively quickly.
And you alluded to it earlier about the audit and the VOSS Discovery process. Can you please go into a bit more detail about what exactly the process was like for this organisation, especially around the audit, and how the customer started to really get to grips with the solution?
So the approach we used with this organisation, and it's the sort of the template we've used with these larger estates, it's a mix of automation software. So we're dealing with a lot of data and scale, and we provide that software in there to assist with that. But it's also the process and the services that go around that. So we've got an approach we use that goes through a discovery on the existing service. Well, we're pulling the data out and analysing that. We're then transforming and migrating that and getting that into shape to move up into the cloud service. And then that moves us into what we call the day-to-day service management. So we've got these 3 steps that we'd run through with a large organisation like this. To come back to the audit and the discovery phase, what that looks like is we install automation software alongside the existing PBX platform. And we do that for 2 reasons. One is it's very secure. There's no data leakage. We're pulling data out of that PBX platform. It's all staying in data center, and there's controlled access around that. From a role-based access point of view, we can run this process with what we call an offline copy or an export. But on large estates, our preference is really to get alongside the existing PBX platform. And what that gives us is insight into all the configuration. We get it into every nook and cranny on the PBX, but it's also dynamic. So we refresh that discovery relatively quickly. So the day-to-day moves as and changes that are going around that PBX platform. We accommodate that refresh, and we've always got a current picture of what's on the service. There's a lot of data on those PBX platforms. The example we're talking about here, we pulled 6 months of call detail records, these sort of usage. So something like 10 million records we absorbed in and analysed. So it's a lot of data, and the tooling lends itself and helps us really to accommodate that scale, navigate around the data, and start to build relationships and draw conclusions. And from that, we can get what we call actionable insight, into that PBX, and then come back with a proposed set of recommendations and plan with the organisation. It's backed up by, we've got a myriad of reports on there, and that'll address things like inventory, utilisation, possible feature gaps if we're moving an existing PBX feature set up onto the cloud, and sort of feature gaps in there. So it's backed up by quite a comprehensive set of reports, and obviously we bring best practice into that as part of the process with the team.
Great. And I think one aspect of this case study I found particularly compelling was how much you highlighted it's not just about adding new technologies as part of this telephony migration. There's also real opportunities to right-size existing services. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, I can do. And that was quite an integral part of this project. We're running this with this large customer. So if you look back on the PBX estate, there or in these large organisations, they've been configured over a long period of time, many years. The configurations have been built up. Organisations are very good at onboarding new users and configuration, not so good at offboarding, so the configuration grows over time. But it's compounded by, if you look at how people work now, sort of flexible working, people aren't in the office quite so much. They're not sitting next to desk phones and the like. So changing working environment means that the business requirements around the estate have changed. So the organisation also wanted to take the opportunity to modernise and right-size the estate, and that sort of comes back to that point about getting cloud ready. We took the opportunity to essentially clean up the estate prior to starting the transition to Microsoft Teams Phone. And that was a combination of blending the service configuration on the PBX along with the usage data, but also user information that we're pulling out of the Active Directory system. And it helps us identify what we call ghost users or obsolete devices, disconnected mailboxes. There's a lot of configuration in there that's pulling down licenses, but also sort of drawing on capacity requirements with local suppliers and service providers, so numbering and things like that. There's an opportunity really to clean that and streamline that out, which we did. Now, the nice thing here is we've got all the information in the tool set. We've analysed that. So we could take the step and roll that back into the existing estate and make those changes for them in a quite a non-disruptive and streamlined way. So all that's obviously all that cleanup process. It's all audited. It's got rollback and it's got all the controls around it, but it gives the organisation an easy step to sort of clean up, get ready before they start their cloud transition.
Absolutely. I think that wriggle room is particularly relevant for organisations of that size. That flexibility is so critical. I guess one final question before I let you go, Tim, and is, I guess, the quite exciting part is what would you say are the financial benefits of the project for the organisation in the end? Is there like a real tangible outcome that you guys are really proud of and just showcasing the sheer really significant benefits from this process?
Good question. So aside from sort of running a much more streamlined migration process to get up onto the cloud, so that we're talking there more around sort of time to benefits, less draw on resources, less draw on dual running licenses on the cloud and on the on-premise estate, the ongoing support and maintenance. So aside from running just a faster, more streamlined migration and getting through that process quickly, we essentially did reset or resize the telephony service to meet current and forward-looking business needs, and so that's typically a reduction in and cleanup of that configuration. So we're right-sizing things like I think we mentioned the users, the phones, the configuration and the like. We're sort of pulling that out, the PBX. That's pulling down on licensing, but it's also pulling down on capacity requirements, sites, numbers, PSTN channels they might have subscribed out with, local service providers. So that removal of that unnecessary configuration is really driving savings on here. And the headline number we use on here is on that particular organisation. And remember, it's a large scale, 100,000 user organisation, large global scale. We took something close to 20% out of the 20 to 30% out of the ongoing operating expenditure, on that telephony service, month on month. So you think that's quite a significant saving for them. It's hard cash, and we release that back into the business, and then they can forward invest that then into more strategic projects or on the transition itself.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Tim. I really enjoyed this session. I think it's fascinating exploring the nitty-gritty of how one particular organisation can benefit from cloud telephony. So thank you for being here today. Okay, thanks, Kieran. Yeah, nice to talk to you. And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Kieran Devlin of UC Today. Thanks for watching.